Well, hello again, YouTube. It's Petey Two Finger. I had made just a handful of videos talking about what happened in Houston. Since then, I've noticed quite a few more. Gee, that really took over the internet for a minute there, didn't it? More and more videos talking about Travis Scott shape shifting into a demon, um, people in the crowd turning into morphing into dead celebrities. Just some really bizarre stuff. And I haven't watched any of that content. I noticed that it exists. I'm going to dive in and watch some of it. It tends to be fairly time consuming. I had a couple of points I wanted to make. Of course, I've talked about this already. There was the Biden diary event, which really was a big deal. And some people were saying that Astroworld was put in place to distract uh, the real big story of the day, which was Biden's daughter's diary was stolen and handed over to Project Veritas, which is a truther website. And in these diaries, it claimed that this young girl, when she was a teen, her father forced her to take showers with her, that he's some abuser. It's really unfortunate. Now, it's disgusting, isn't it? Typically, if I walk into your home and grab a guitar and walk out with it, you can call the police and file charges, and I will be charged and prosecuted. Well, that's not the case if I take your tax returns or your diary and print them in public. It's part of the freedom of press that we have in this country. Now, that was not the case when the Biden diaries were stolen. There was a task force implemented, Project Veritas. These journalists had their homes raided. So, this is something that we're not really talking about in the media, but it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. And it points towards the reality that maybe the tinfoil hat community, that these people may have been on to something. Maybe something is going on. Do you remember that pizza thing that was going around? We're not supposed to talk about that anymore. But everyone's talking about now. Astro World, of course. Travis is turning into a demon. He's morphing into a satanic monster while on stage. Drake as well. Drake was always. It seemed to me that Drake was presented to us like he was clean cut, like he was good. You know, there's video of Drake mocking someone for saying they could not breathe, and then immediately demanding someone give him a shot. Now, a shot of alcohol being on the bottom rung of ease of use or like minimal effort, like the fact you would need someone to prepare you a shot, doesn't say much about your stick to itiveness or your gumption. It says that you in fact are a baby, that you would need someone to wipe you. And here he is mocking someone because they can't breathe and then demanding a shot, which, like I said, it's then here you go. You can't do that for yourself, but you're mocking someone who couldn't breathe. Now, when going after a culprit, we can see, the Illuminati, Moloch sacrifices, Blood Moon. He's morphing into a Dracula, werewolf, Travis Scott, bloodthirsty, all of this stuff. And I want to present a different villain being hip hop itself. What's the message of this music? I don't know. I'm not a fan of hip hop, but from a distance, I see if you look at me, why the F are you looking at me? I'm armed and I will kill you for looking at me, being an example theme. And I've been in that position myself before. It's not a good place to be in. I see pimping and hoeing, dealing drugs, arming yourselves. And you know, like if you're a real young person and you're in an unfortunate situation, maybe you live in the hood, maybe you don't have a father who's in the picture, the idea of joining a gang or obtaining a firearm may seem like a good idea as far as your plan to get up and out. And ultimately, if you were 17 or 19 and you've been around that lifestyle for a while and you realize what they say is true about the penitentiary or an early grave, I don't see how someone of the age of Drake or Travis Scott could sleep without the feeling of having blood on your hands for making music that's just pounding that message into young America. And that when you get a group of people, like-minded people, who any moral compass they may have had has been eroded from years of listening to 808 drum beat with an auto-tuned vocal, that this is what you get. You get a body count. You get selfish people who have been brainwashed thinking that the world is theirs and that they're Scarface. One hand on the phone, the other hand on the back of the person in front of them, shoving. And if you know me, you know over the years I have made similar videos calling out different fans of different live acts who happen to not be African American or Mexican, happen to be white as they come. And I've called these bands out and said, unfortunately, I'm unable to attend this concert because I'm weird. I need 18 inches of personal space around me. If I'm going to pay $50 to $100 for a ticket for an event where I'm literally going to be there for 2 hours, I demand that I'm not being constantly shoved, having people put their hands on me because I'm disabled, because I have a broken back, I have a pair of herniated discs, and I suffer a disc degenerative disease. And I live with chronic pain, and that requires that ultimately I'm reclining. And if I attend a concert where it's seated, their seats, people stand. People stand right in front. They just get up and stand. Now, there's time when it is appropriate to stand at a concert, meaning that period of time when the last note is plucked on the last song, and then you sit down when they come back out for the encore. And then you can repeat that process when they finish the encore. But there's never a time when it's appropriate to push and shove. What I'm saying is the message of hip-hop has created a type of person who unfortunately doesn't have the moral compass to tell them, you know, number one, what you're witnessing is a ritual, and that this is a human sacrifice, and that you are the active ingredient. You're by the act of you pushing and shoving. So what I'm saying is that Travis Scott and Drake were up on a stage. They had hundreds of personal space in all directions. So we can check them off the list of suspects. Who was responsible for all of the death and carnage at Astroworld is the fans. And unfortunately, this is what you get. This is what you get from that message, that music. You ever notice when you're at a light in certain places of town, there'll be 4 or 5 people with subwoofers and they're all trying to outdo each other? I've noticed that the response from the 808, the drum kit, the drum machine, it pulls a fear response. That boom sound is supposed to, people say it's a lower frequency. And if you live in an area where people will, if you're hearing that, like let's say you don't live on a country road in your parents' basement in a huge house, you're a young person, but if you've actually been through the ringer, been through the blue collar system, and you live in an apartment, like a lot of us, And then your inconsiderate neighbors, and I'm not talking about those African Americans. I'm talking about just anybody with a sub, because it's not African American people that are, it's whites. Yeah, there's some Mexicans that do it, and they play that. Yeah, and that's irritating as well. But the 808 with the that 808 hi-hat and then the boom with the auto-tune vocal. If you live in an area where that's going on all the time and you kind of can't escape it, it, it it'll ruin your day. It'll ruin your day. So I had a system with 300 watt amp and two 12s in a box with 6 speakers that each pair had their own amp, and it ran off a normal battery with the alternator was goosed a little higher. But it wasn't an incredibly loud system, but it was loud enough. And I shut my shit off 2 stop signs out from my house. When I turned that first corner, I would turn it down, and by the time we got on my street, it was off. Or very quiet, you know. And I just did that out of respect for my neighbors. So that's something to think about if you do have a system. Don't impose that on other people. That's a young thing to do, and that type of mentality of boom, boom, and you think you're going to attract a mate, maybe, perhaps, by doing that. That's the symptom. That's the issue. That's the reason we had a body count at Astroworld, is because there was a ton of people, perhaps more people, and there was a bad layout. And these people all did whatever they could, disregarding everyone else's safety. One hand on the phone, one hand on the back in front of you with the grin, shoving, and then stepping on people and standing on people. I can't imagine stepping on a body. Like, wouldn't you? And I want to be clear, like, I watched some videos on Astroworld. There was one young African American guy, and immediately I got this vibe like, oh, I'm not going to like this kid because he had a street kind of accent. And then he described how he went down and talked sense into people to remove the other 2 bodies that were on top of him. And then he got up and went on to continue helping others. So that guy, like, I was so proud of that kid, that young man. I was really proud of him. And I just want to say, if there was more folks with that type of character at this show, that this never would have happened, because there wouldn't have been the shoving going on in the first place. So all of this stuff about guys running around with needles injecting people, the satanic sacrifice, Travis Scott morphing into a demon, I think we can put that off to the side, and we need to focus on who the real culprit at Astro World was. And it's us. It's society. Anyway, more and more here, I've been a little bit more vocal about being careful what we consume. That you might not think, but it does affect you. So consider what you're feeding your ears and your eyes. We eat healthy nowadays. We have our water babas. Look at me, I'm special. I have a baba. We should also consider the health of our soul, because it matters. I know. I listened to Pink Floyd for 10 years, and I was pretty hopeless at the end of that. Pretty hopeless. Music of Adrian Belew helped to pull me out of that and give me some hope. Well, the main thing was meeting my wife. She helped a little bit. Anyway, you guys, take care of yourselves. Stay warm, hug your pets, and peace.